Revealed, how a billionaire's touching decision to turn back changed a single mom's life forever. The rain lashed against the diner's window like the relentless worries crowding Lisa's mind. She stood behind the counter, pouring coffee and managing her 2 children at the booth, each sip capturing a moment of fleeting tranquility. The sweat of her 2 jobs was palpable, but the laughter of Mia and Ethan gave her purpose. Each day was a question how to make ends meet, how to dodge the judgmental stares of those who didn't understand. Was there even a way out of this relentless grind? Then he walked in. Jack Sullivan, with his chiseled jaw and the kind of confidence only affluence could breed. She could see it in the way he carried himself, effortlessly brushing past the struggling patrons, his gaze dismissive as he surveyed the diner. Did he even notice her? The single mother striving to keep her dreams afloat while battling the realities of late-night bills and early morning wake-ups? For a fleeting moment, Lisa's breath caught. Was it possible for someone like him to see her? Pride swelled, clashing violently with the ache of desperation. She was determined to make a life for Mia and Ethan, but the looming path to nursing school felt insurmountable. There was no room for help, or was there? As they exchanged casual glances, she found herself hesitating, questioning the very definition of need. The apprehension moved through her like electricity, sparking doubt. She didn't want charity. She wanted to stand on her own feet, but with each passing moment, an internal battle raged. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks of fretful coexistence. Jack's visits became routine, his presence awakening an uneasy comfort. They chatted over greasy plates, each exchange building an invisible bridge tethered by their differences. His enigmatic charm peeled back layers of her inhibitions, yet Lisa felt the weight of her reality pulling her down. Could she possibly let someone like him in? Would he understand the gravity of her burdens? The marrow of her dreams, they shivered beneath the uncertainty of his intentions. The ambition that had propelled her all these years began fraying at the edges, whispers of doubt echoing, drowning her resolve. As the rain continued to patter against reality, Lisa felt it relentless, suffocating. Jack's seemingly effortless life only amplified her insecurities. Could he ever comprehend the tightrope she walked? Or was she just another fleeting moment in his extravagant world, destined to be left behind? The tension within her spiraled, tightening like a noose around her heart. She could feel the storm approaching, a tempest of emotion threatening to engulf her. And just when she thought she might leap forward into a connection that could redefine everything, an unexpected phone call dragged her back into her past, an urgent family crisis that threatened to unravel the carefully woven fabric of her existence. Heart racing, Lisa clenched the phone, her breath hitching. There it was again, the searing realization of her fragility, the weight of her responsibilities crushing down. Time hung suspended, the decision looming. Above the diner's flickering neon lights, a question crystallized. Would she cling to her pride, or would she allow herself to reach out for help, one little thread in the tapestry of support offered by someone who saw her? The air was thick with ambiguity, a yes or no hanging between them beneath the fluorescent lights, and the ache of possibility vibrated through her veins. Lisa's mind raced as the urgency of the phone call subsided into a dull throb of anxiety. Her family's crisis loomed larger than she could comprehend. A relative needed financial assistance and a short-term caregiver. As both the weight of responsibility and the bitter taste of her own helplessness washed over her, she felt more isolated than ever. She took a deep breath, bringing her focus back to the diner. The familiar sounds of clinking dishes and muted conversations had once provided comfort, but now they merely amplified her racing thoughts. Jack's presence was like a light, intense, and yet she feared it would burn too brightly, too fast. Could she show him her vulnerabilities? The truth of her life? With her heart still pounding, she leaned against the counter, feeling the cool, worn surface beneath her fingers. Would leaning on Jack compromise the very independence she fought so hard to obtain? The moment felt paradoxical, each potential path before her shrouded in fog. Just then, Jack strolled over, an easy grin spreading across his face. "Hey there. Everything okay?" He was genuine, his concern palpable, and for the first time, it felt like an opening. An invitation to unburden herself, but also a risk, a vulnerability she wasn't prepared to face yet. It's just family stuff," Lisa stammered, keeping her voice steady. "Nothing to worry about." But the lie settled heavily in her stomach. She could see it in Jack's eyes, that subtle shift of concern, and she felt exposed. Was this where she'd reach out, open up about her challenges? Or should she maintain the facade of the brave single mother, resolute and unyielding? Instead of answering, she turned away, gathering her thoughts like loose change. She needed a plan, a buffer against the doubts crowding her mind. She could feel the countdown ticking toward a decision that felt monumental, perhaps even life-altering. The nights became a familiar grind. In the half-light of their small apartment, as Mia and Ethan slept soundly, Lisa found herself poring over nursing program brochures, her hands trembling with hope and despair. Would applying to the school be a step forward, or would it only deepen her uncertainty about her capabilities? With every passing day, the idea of Jack's support flitted across her mind. Could it be transformative? Or would it feel like a chain, binding her to expectations she wasn't ready to meet? Perhaps the secret lay not in accepting help, but in acknowledging her own strength, her resilience. The idea nagged at her until one fateful evening, acknowledging her carefully constructed boundaries felt increasingly impossible. As she arranged plates for the diner's closing rush, Lisa glimpsed Jack again across the room. He was casually leaning back in a booth, his casual demeanor making him look entirely at home amidst chaos. In that moment, she recognized something shimmering amidst her doubt, a flicker of clarity. Maybe the path to nursing school would require more than self-sufficiency. It could demand a network of support, one that welcomes insecurities. But could she afford to let that happen? "I need to know," she whispered to herself. It was no longer just about her, it was about her children and her future with them. Ignoring the swirling thoughts, she stepped toward Jack, feeling a warm determination solidify within her as she drew closer. The choice now loomed larger than herself. It was about vulnerability. Would she allow the doors of her life to swing open, inviting someone in? Each step echoed the thought, the time had come to face her fears head-on. But as she prepared to speak, a sudden crash echoed from the kitchen, pulling Lisa's attention abruptly. The calm she had mustered began to unravel. The moment felt ripe with possibility, yet she knew it wouldn't be that simple. What awaited her was far from certain, with clarity hanging just beyond her grasp. "Jack," she began, but the urgency of the chaos in the back shrouded her words, forging a new question. Would the crush of the unexpected pull her back to her safe corner, or would she finally dare to leap into the unknown? The crash from the kitchen drew Lisa's attention like a magnet, snapping her out of her internal struggle. Plates clattered to the floor, shattering a moment she had been dreading yet yearning for. Jack turned his head sharply to the sound, and without thinking, Lisa fled toward the chaos. "Can I help?" she called, adrenaline fueling her urgency. As she rushed through the bustling diners and the echoing jangle of the kitchen, she found her colleague Ben crouched over a mess of broken ceramic and spilled food. "It's a disaster. Got to clean this up before the dinner rush," he exclaimed, his voice tinged with panic. The sudden need to resolve the crisis flooded over her, a diversion from confronting her own reality. She knelt beside him, an innate desire to take charge rising within. "You take that side, I'll handle this," she directed, her tone sharper than she had intended. The familiar authority felt good, and Ben nodded, grateful for the assistance. As they cleared the remnants of dinner, Lisa's mind kept wandering back to Jack. His warmth had ignited a flicker of courage in her, but now it felt snuffed out by the urgency surrounding her. She steeled her resolve to speak to him after the shift. Once the kitchen was back in order, she wouldn't let this moment slip away. But the task wasn't finished, and she dove deeper into the chaos. Once the rush died down and the last customers trickled out, her nerves gnawed at her again. Each moment of quiet felt like the calm before a storm, amplifying her inner turmoil. The diner felt more intimate now, shadows lengthened across the tables, framing her thoughts in a lingering twilight. "Lisa, you were a lifesaver tonight," Jack said, appearing beside her after having finished his own chores. His genuine admiration felt like balm against her anxieties, and for a fleeting instant, she considered revealing her truth. "Thanks, Jack. Just doing my part," she replied, her voice steadier than her heart. In that awkward lull, the air thickened between them. Jack leaned back against the counter, studying her with his earnest eyes. Lisa feared he could see right through the facade she had spent so long erecting. This was the moment she had been waiting for, yet the weight of unspoken words pressed heavily on her chest. "Listen, I wanted to talk about everything," she finally said, her voice almost a whisper. This could be the thread that unraveled her tightly knit life, yet it also could sew together a new future. "What's on your mind?" he asked, and the sincerity in his tone stirred something deep within her, a yearning for connection. But could she risk exposing her vulnerabilities? As she opened her mouth to reply, another voice punctured the moment. Their manager, Ruth, strode over, her heels clicking against the linoleum floor. "Great job tonight, team. Love the enthusiasm," she declared, oblivious to the tension. "Lisa, can you stay a bit later to help count the till? We'll need to make sure the evening's sales reflect accurately." "Sure thing," Lisa replied, feeling the wind of disappointment sweep through her. The opportunity to reach out to Jack slipped away again, swallowed by the mundane realities of her life. Yet the fleeting moment of clarity from earlier refused to fade. The thought of nursing school again whispered in her mind like a promise. How could she weave new dreams into the fabric of her reality, especially when each day felt like paddling upstream? As Jack accurately counted the receipts, Lisa felt a surge of warmth for him, the way he lost himself in details, his brow furrowing in concentration. He was more than what she had initially perceived. He could be part of something significant, something that empowered her rather than diminished her independence. But that was the crux of her dilemma. How much to reveal? She had spent so long shielding herself from the world, and it had only succeeded in anchoring her to the ground. With the stacks of receipts glowing in front of her, a revelation struck. What if the challenge she feared most wasn't about vulnerability, but rather about allowing herself to embrace the unknown? As Ruth walked away, an idea ignited within her. A plan was forming, one that could involve Jack but would not strictly depend on his support. Balancing ambition with the daunting reality of parenthood wouldn't be easy, and yet the thrill in her chest suggested possibility. "Jack," Lisa began again, her pulse quickening at the thought of honesty. But before she could voice her aspirations, the door swung open, and a figure stepped inside, the last thing she expected. It was a flash from the past, a living reminder of the hurdles she thought she had left behind. "Lisa, we need to talk." The voice rang out, filled with urgency. Her heart sank, but within the dread, another urgency stirred. Could this turn of events be the catalyst for her transformation, or would it spiral back toward the chains she was trying to break? The figure in the doorway was unmistakable. Mark, a face she had once cherished, had morphed back into a specter of her past. The shockwave of his unexpected appearance rattled her, pulling her from the tentative web of self-discovery she had started to weave. Lisa's heart raced as she processed the implications of his words. "We need to talk," echoed ominously, laying a trap of anxiety within her. "Now?" she asked, her voice betraying her unease. The weight of unfinished conversations with Jack pressed against her, threatening to suffocate her newfound courage. With trembling hands, she folded her arms, bracing herself against whatever tidal wave Mark was about to unleash. "Yeah, now," Mark insisted, stepping further inside and casting a glance over his shoulder, as if wary of being overheard. I messed up, Lisa. But I've changed. I want to make things right." A barrage of emotions clashed within her. Anger fought against the warmth of old affection, and memories flooded her mind of good times intertwined with painful experiences. The remnants of their relationship were intricately woven with disappointments, and amidst it all, Lisa had built a life and identity outside of him. Change? She scoffed. You left when things got tough. Why would I believe that now, in the middle of my life, you're suddenly ready to stand up? The accusation hung between them, heavy with unspoken history. I know it's a lot to ask, he admitted softly, the bravado slipping from his posture, revealing a hint of vulnerability. I've been working on myself. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. I want to be there for you, for our son. Her stomach twisted at the mention of their child. Would this be the moment she would allow him back into their lives, or would it push her further into the shadows of despair? She thought of the dreams she had started nurturing. She thought of Jack and the possibilities igniting within her. Caught between the past and the promise of the future, resentment bubbled alongside an inexplicable yearning for closure. Just like that, huh? You think showing up at my work after years is enough to fix everything? Her voice wavered with a blend of incredulity and rage. You don't get to play the changed man card without any effort. I want to put in the effort, he argued, voice rising slightly, eyes pleading. I'm stable now. I can help with everything. You don't have to do it alone. The challenge of balancing vulnerability and practical ambition surged within her again. Mark's presence pushed her to question everything she had come to value: her independence, her growth, her freedom. What did it mean to accept help where it had once felt suffocating, merely a reminder of her failures? As the silence expanded, Lisa fought for coherence. Each second felt like an eternity, adding layers of conflict to her already torn psyche. Would she reach out for collaboration and possibly sacrifice her sense of self? Or would she remain steadfast, locking the door on her past once and for all? Behind her, Jack's presence lingered, physically absent but emotionally charged, a constant reminder of the new beginning she craved. She felt torn, not merely by Mark's offer, but by the escalating internal conflict that threatened to ensnare her progress. A voice in the back of her mind whispered that she had the power to steer this conversation, to mold the future she desired. Surrounded by the remnants of her past, present, and a new glimmering possibility with Jack, she had to choose wisely. Look, Mark, she said cautiously, her heart still thrumming with uncertainty, I need time to think. The boldness of her words felt like a dawning realization, steeped in clarity she hadn't comprehended earlier. It's not just about you anymore. I have my own dreams, my own path. Maybe I'll consider talking to you, but not just yet. Mark's face visibly fell, but the resolve in her heart steadily grew. She wouldn't allow the fleeting reassurance of familiarity to derail her. As she walked past him, resolved to gather her thoughts, Lisa caught sight of Jack watching from a distance. His steady gaze sent pulses of strength through her. The weight of the past clashed with the allure of her potential future, a future she refused to compromise. But would she have the courage to embrace that future, despite the fears that clawed at her? Would she be able to confront not only Mark but also her dangerous inclination to tread backward? The fork in the road lay before her, shadows looming larger than ever. Could she dare to step forward into the light, or would she retreat into familiar darkness? She could feel the paths stretching out indefinitely, hoping one would lead her closer to her aspirations, but which one, mind anchored in resolve or heart plagued by doubt? With renewed determination, Lisa prepared to face what was coming, holding the key to her own fate tightly in her grip. The anxiety that twisted in Lisa's stomach didn't dissipate when she left Mark behind. In fact, it only intensified as she walked through the bustling streets toward her apartment. The facade of normalcy surrounded her: friends meeting over coffee, children playing in the park, couples laughing. Each joy reminded her of the life she had built, one that she now deemed fragile, ready to shatter with a single misstep. As she stepped inside her quiet apartment, the emptiness was palpable. Shadows danced on the walls, mimicking her swirling thoughts. She moved mechanically, filling a glass with water, but the reflection staring back at her felt foreign. Each drop dripped the echo of Mark's desperate plea, I want to be there for you. Do you? Lisa whispered to herself, feeling the weight of each unanswered question. After everything, could she even trust him enough to be a co-parent? The prospect of reopening that chapter left her hesitant. Was she inviting chaos or merely testing the bounds of newfound freedom? She sat on the couch, feeling the fibers of the cushions press against her, grounding her in the moment. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from a spiraling guilt-ridden reverie. It was Jack, the text simple but overflowing with encouragement. "Thinking about you. Let us talk later." Instantly, the tension in her chest loosened. Jack was steady, unwavering in his support, and yet, guilt crept in again. Was she being fair entangling him in her unresolved past with Mark? Lisa thought back to their conversations about goals and aspirations, the dream of creating something meaningful together. All those thoughts ignited something within her, a flicker of ambition she refused to extinguish. Mark's return didn't have to define her path. She could tell him no to tread respectfully into the realm of her autonomy. Still, she needed clarity. The next few hours were a blur of self-reflection, spilling everything onto paper, the good, the bad, and the dreams that intertwined with both men. Each word felt like a revelation, unlocking facets of her previously sidelined aspirations. She recalled her dreams of an art exhibition, a concept brimming with potential, now tinged with risks she'd have to face alone. But maybe that was where the growth lay? In the storm of uncertainty. Once she had revealed her thoughts on paper, a sense of calmness spread through her. That self-exploration cleared some fog, but clouds still loomed in the distance, especially those surrounding Mark. A sudden realization struck: if she continued to allow him to linger in her life, would she ever truly step into her own? No, this time, fear would not dictate her choices. The sun dipped below the horizon as she prepared to meet Jack, her stomach knotting with excitement laced with anxiety. She needed to articulate her thoughts, to lay down the boundaries that would secure the foundation of her burgeoning relationship. When they met, his presence was like a beacon, comforting yet challenging. Sitting across from him, the contrast of their realities now felt sharper. "I was thinking about the exhibit," she began, steadying her voice despite the chaos brewing inside. "And how it reflects parts of ourselves that we often overlook. I want to be brave, Jack, but I need to prioritize my life, and what I want." His gaze focused intently on her, recognizing her struggle, deepening the connection. "You're already being brave, Lisa. We shouldn't define our futures based on others' expectations or their pasts. If Mark is part of a puzzle you're willing to work on," he paused, letting the weight of his words sink in, "then we'll find a way to tackle it together. But your dreams come first." The urgency of that statement ignited resolve in her. "I'm done being a passenger. I will pave the road ahead, even if it means limping through it." Just then, her phone rang, cutting through the moment. Reluctantly, she glanced at the screen. It was Mark. The familiar dread seeped through her like a slow poison, her heart pounding as she contemplated whether to answer and confront or let the call roll into oblivion. Every pulse in her veins urged her to act, and she felt the critical edge of tension pull tight around her. Would she be brave enough to dismantle the past for good, or would she once again let it weave itself into her future? Holding her breath, Lisa prepared to choose. In her heart, she finally realized the decision was not merely about closure, it was a defining moment of courage she had claimed as her own. Even as she felt the familiar pang of doubt, the door ahead beckoned a new path tinged with infinite possibilities worth pursuing. What awaited her on the other side? The phone screen illuminated, casting a cold blue light across Lisa's face. She cursed under her breath as she watched Mark's name flash. With a deep breath, she felt a surge of determination push through the anxiety pooling in her stomach. Ignoring the call was a choice, as was answering it, but she had to decide which option aligned with her newfound commitment to self-discovery. By letting the call go to voicemail, she was not rejecting Mark, she was asserting her autonomy, refusing to let his presence distract her from the path she'd begun carving. This choice felt monumental, small yet significant, like a foundational stone in a building she was ready to construct. Instead of ruminating on the missed call, she focused on the conversation with Jack. There was raw sincerity in their connection, a stabilization she had lacked for too long. They talked late into the night, exploring creative concepts for the art exhibition, and Lisa felt encouraged, enthused by a collaborative vision rather than fear of failure. It reignited a spark within her, a reminder that she thrived in the company of those who valued her dreams rather than diminished them. However, as she lay in bed that night, she felt the shadows of the past creeping back, especially Mark's voice echoing in her mind. She was torn between wanting to confront him and the desire to create distance. The next morning, resolve washed over her like a revitalizing dawn. She picked up her journal and began listing out what she wanted to achieve both personally and professionally. Each bubble of thought concentrated on her aspirations rather than the past she was attempting to transcend. The list was no masterpiece, but each item conveyed power: launching her art exhibit, defining her relationship with Jack, and addressing Mark with clarity and respect. These goals motivated her, challenging her to view the chaos of the week not as an obstacle but as an opportunity for growth. Lisa felt a tide shift within her as she collected her scattered thoughts, mapping a route forward. She decided to answer Mark, but not before she was ready, equipped with her thoughts crystal clear, knowing her boundaries. Drafting an email, she poured in her feelings honestly yet assertively, making it clear she was willing to engage in co-parenting discussions, but only on the terms that prioritized her well-being and aspirations. Sending the email felt like releasing a tether that had restrained her. There was a new lightness in her chest, a liberating sense of control. Stepping into the day, she exuded confidence, even in mundane tasks. Customers at the cafe nearby talked about the art scene, and she found herself inwardly smiling at the prospect of putting her work out there. Then her phone buzzed with a new notification. It was from Jack. "Your passion inspires me. I can't wait to see how your exhibition unfolds. Let us grab dinner tonight. You deserve celebration." Lisa read the message multiple times, warmth spreading through her. She felt reassured. Perhaps this was the kind of partnership that would allow both of them to thrive, not merely coexist. Yet, within that comfort lingered the concern. Mark would respond eventually, and this forthcoming conversation would set the tone for how she further defined her life. Would she be able to convey her boundaries without folding under pressure? Could she navigate this dialogue with a sense of calm, or would doubt overwhelm her? With that thought lingering, she prepared for a pivotal chapter in her journey. She had to embody the strength she was cultivating, channel it into whatever response came next. As the clock ticked down to her dinner with Jack, the anticipation was electrifying, mingled with the inevitable challenges lurking in the backdrop of change. In the depths of her heart, one realization sank in. The moment of truth regarding Mark was approaching fast, and it would demand every ounce of bravery she had summoned. What awaited Lisa as she stepped into a defining conversation, ready to reclaim her narrative? As Lisa prepared for her dinner with Jack, a whirlwind of emotions surged within her. The thought of finally facing Mark, of standing her ground and redefining her boundaries, heaved like a tide in her chest. She dressed carefully, consciously choosing each piece that imbued her with confidence, angling for the reflection in the mirror as if it were a canvas. This time, she would see strength, not vulnerability. Arriving at the restaurant, she caught sight of Jack seated at a cozy corner table, a genuine smile lighting his face. His eyes mirrored encouragement that buoyed her spirits. They shared laughter, stories, and plans. Each moment reassured her that rediscovery required both risk and reward. In their exchanges, Jack's demeanor fueled her artistic ambition and ignited buried inspirations. Surrounded by warmth, she felt momentum building, a force pulling her towards the horizon of her aspirations. But in the back of her mind, Mark loomed. As the evening wore on, the deeper conversation inevitably surfaced. "What do you want most from this exhibition?" Jack asked, an earnest curiosity in his voice. Lisa paused, considering the question with reflective gravity. "I want people to feel something, to connect with the work in a way that transcends my story," she replied, her gaze fixed on the flickering candlelight, as if it held the answer. "But I also want to create space for my own growth, to make my mark beyond the roles attached to me." Mother, ex-wife, she hesitated, the weight of it all staggering her resolve. Would that growth be stunted when Mark's response landed? Every fiber of her being wished for clarity in that moment. Jack leaned in, a knowing look crossing his expression. "You're capable of presenting your truth. And whatever is to come with Mark, you'll face it. You're stronger than you realize." His words settled into her, like seeds finding fertile ground. They unlocked a deeper understanding, Her journey was not merely about reclaiming her narrative but about crafting a new identity that could coexist with her past while embracing the potential of her future. Later, as they walked together beneath the soft glow of streetlights, Lisa felt the barriers between her former self and the woman she was becoming begin to dissolve. Jack's presence was both comforting and illuminating, and it reassured her that meaningful relationships were built on shared support, not sacrifices on personal growth. Still, she knew the hours ahead would challenge everything she had begun to carve out. The rush of apprehension bubbled to the surface as they parted ways. The decision to face Mark loomed large. How would he react? Would he respect her boundaries, or would the echoes of their past disrupt her newfound clarity? Back at home, Lisa sank onto her bed, determination surging through her veins. She replayed her thoughts from the evening, grounding herself in the newfound awareness of her desires. She was more than just a past defined by another, she was an artist, a mother, and a resilient woman ready to confront what had once left her paralyzed with fear. The moment had arrived. Her phone buzzed once more. It was Mark. With a deep breath, she opened the message, her heart racing. The words awaited her like an uncharted path filled with uncertainty but also the promise of clarity. What would the content reveal? The stakes had never felt higher, and she was poised before a new chapter, ready to confront her reality. As the screen lit up with his response, a singular thought burned in her mind. The moment of confrontation with Mark was here, and with it, the chance to reshape her life was within reach. With trepidation, Lisa read Mark's message, her heart pounding against her ribcage as if it sought escape from the tension that hung in the air. His words were a combination of charm and condescension, an invitation to meet rather than a direct confrontation. Let us talk, Lisa. Can we meet tomorrow? I miss you. For a split second, warmth flooded through her. The memory of their shared laughter, the deep connection that had once existed between them, almost ensnared her mind. But she quickly reminded herself of the pain, the manipulation, the aftermath of their split. No, she whispered to herself, I'm not that woman anymore. Each encounter with Mark felt like a test, a dim memory of how easily she had surrendered control in the past. Yet this time, she had the tools to counteract his persuasive charm. As she composed her response, the steady rhythm of her fingers across the keyboard became a meditative act of defiance. I'm open to a conversation, but I need it to be clear and respectful. I'm done with mistaking nostalgia for a reason to engage. She pressed send before she could second-guess herself. The action, seemingly simple, was monumental. Each word reflected her steadfast resolve, a protective barrier she was confident enough to build. Each click of the keyboard echoed her newfound clarity, an affirmation declaring that she would not relent to whims of the past. In the hours leading up to their meeting, Lisa threw herself into her art. She poured paint onto canvas, letting each brushstroke symbolize the turbulence within her, a representation of her struggles, her resilience, and her ambitions. The colors clashed and harmonized, much like her emotions. With every stroke, she embraced the conflicting feelings swirling inside her, allowing them to transform into something tangible. As twilight descended, she stood back and admired her work. It was chaotic yet profoundly beautiful, a reflection of her journey. Suddenly she found herself humming a tune, something she hadn't done in ages, a small nod to joyful moments far overshadowed in the past. Facing Mark would be a challenge, but her time with Jack had shifted something inside her. She felt empowered in a way she had never anticipated. Perhaps it was the art, perhaps it was the rekindled support from Jack, or, more importantly, her own acceptance of who she was becoming. In their upcoming meeting, she knew she'd need to remain anchored. Mark would likely attempt to disarm her with charm or nostalgia. The thought of it ignited disbelief. How had she allowed his persuasive nature to dictate her life for so long? But as she navigated these musings, she realized that this confrontation was a profound opportunity for growth. Not only was it a moment to articulate her needs, but it also posed a chance to peel back layers of her identity, unveiling a strength that had lain dormant beneath the surface for years. The clock inched closer to their meeting time, and Lisa's palms flowed with a blend of apprehension and excitement. She dressed deliberately, opting for an ensemble that conveyed professionalism yet resonated with a casual confidence. The tranquil air of evening clung to her, almost as if the universe conspired to lend her strength. I am more than my past, she chanted inwardly as she stepped out the door, an affirmation against self-doubt. The anticipation surged with each step towards the cafe. What expression would Mark wear? Would he challenge her or seek reconciliation? The thought curdled with both doubt and the stirrings of hope within her. What lay behind that door was not merely a conversation, but a pivotal moment. As she crossed the threshold, Lisa inhaled deeply, grounding herself in her newfound purpose. It was time to showcase the woman she had unearthed, a force unyielding, defined not by her past, but by her embrace of her future. Yet, just as she spotted Mark, a nagging sensation flickered in the recesses of her mind. What if he tried to manipulate her emotions again? And in that instant, she realized that true confrontation was about more than just verbal exchanges. It would demand that she stand firm against any lingering manipulation. As their eyes locked, a chilling question lingered in the air. Would this meeting tear down her hard-won walls or solidify them into unshakable foundations? Lisa's heart raced as Mark approached, the familiar blend of warmth and dread coiling within her. He looked the same, yet somehow different, a crispness in his attire that suggested professionalism she had once admired but now found overwhelming. Gone were the soft edges of affection. Instead, the air thrummed with unspoken challenges. "Hey, it's good to see you," Mark said, a disarming smile playing upon his lips. For a moment, she hesitated, grappling with the impulse to return the greeting with the same warmth she had once summoned so effortlessly. Instead, she pushed her shoulders back, erecting an invisible shield between them. "Thank you for meeting me." Settling into their seats, the cafe bustled around them, a chaotic backdrop for the impending confrontation. The sounds of clattering cups and quiet conversations faded into a dull hum as Lisa focused on Mark. There was something unnervingly familiar about his gaze, a scrutinizing depth that unnerved her. "I've missed you," he stated, the sincerity in his tone almost disarming. She noticed how his eyes shifted, hinting at vulnerability, a tactic, perhaps, meant to sway her. This was it. "I wanted to talk about us," he continued, his voice smooth. "Bring back what we had." "No," she interjected, firming her resolve. "That's not what this conversation is about. I want to talk about closure." Mark looked taken aback. Her declaration hovered between them, charging the atmosphere with a palpable tension. The ground beneath her shook, but her voice did not waver. "I've done a lot of work on myself since we broke up," she continued, the words finding their rhythm, propelled by her memories of self-discovery with Jack and through her art. "I've learned that I cannot define myself by someone else's feelings or what we shared. It was a different time, a time where I let myself be swept away." Mark shifted in his seat, his expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. "Lisa, I know I made mistakes, but what?" The familiar refrain sent a jolt through her. Lisa interjected again, "Forgiveness doesn't equate to reconciliation. I'm not here to rehash the past. I'm here to take back my power. To be whole without the weight of what was." His composure faltered as he registered the finality in her words, lips pressed together in contemplation. Lisa felt exhilaration and fear roll through her, yet it felt liberating to witness his unease. There was delight in seeing his facade crack just an inch, a counterbalance to the way he had once effortlessly influenced her decisions and emotions. "Are you saying you don't miss what we had?" Mark asked, attempting to regain his footing. "Not in the way you think." Her voice hardened, sharpening with precision. "What I miss are the memories, but I am not that woman anymore. I am building something new. Something better." In that moment, Mark's expression shifted. Defensiveness blended with an oddly reflective look, a flicker of recognition, perhaps. She dared to believe that he might be grappling with the ghosts of their past too, but she wouldn't allow his epiphanies to sway her again. "You think you're stronger now?" he challenged, a hint of incredulity in his voice. "I know I am. I've discovered aspects of myself in this art that I never thought existed," she countered fiercely. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a declaration of war, a struggle between the girl who had faltered and the woman who had risen. His brows drew together. "Art? It's just paint, Lisa. You can't hold on to that as proof of growth. The reprimand stunned her momentarily, reality slashed through the emotional haze. Yet even in his condescension, she found purpose. Perhaps to you, it's just paint. But for me, it's freedom. It's healing. It's revealing who I truly am, and it's something I fought hard to build. The silence stretched, thick yet electrifying. Would he understand the weight of her transformation? Or would he persist in underestimating her? Mark opened his mouth, then paused as if sensing the stakes had dramatically risen. The grip of anxiety tightened again in Lisa's chest. This was a pivotal moment, one that could either solidify the conclusion of their chapter or send her spiraling into old habits. As uncertainty swirled, she knew that whatever lay ahead held the power to unravel her progress or harden her resolve. From behind the layers of their shared history, a question surged to the forefront of her mind. Was she truly prepared to embrace the aftermath of this confrontation, regardless of the outcome? Just as she contemplated her next move, Mark leaned closer, his eyes narrowing with intent. What if I told you I've changed too? The challenge lingered in the air, heavy with implications. Lisa's heart pounded, each beat echoing the significance of their shared past yet flush with her determination. The time had come to either solidify her newfound identity or risk it all. The moment of truth arrived. Lisa steadied herself as Mark's words reverberated through her mind. The notion of change resonated differently now, illuminating the journeys they had both endured but also testing her newfound resolve. She recognized the tenuous nature of the moment. Here stood the man who once held sway over her, now reaching out with the suggestion of transformation. What you call changed must be proven, Mark, she asserted, her tone contemplative yet resolute. Words alone cannot undo the past. I'm not the woman who lets promises dictate reality anymore. Lisa felt a ripple of satisfaction as she articulated her boundaries for the first time, each syllable fortifying her stance, pushing back against memories tinged with pain. Mark shifted, a flash of frustration crossing his face, and that slight crack in his composure sent a surge of confidence through her. I hope you're serious about your new path, he said with a furrowed brow, attempting to regain command of the narrative. But don't forget, it's not easy to build something without support. The ache of his words lingered, intertwining with the familiar pulls of nostalgia. Yet, a spark of clarity ignited in her. You're right, she countered, shaking her head slowly. Building something meaningful does require support. But I have that now. I've learned to ask for help, and more importantly, I've learned to offer support unconditionally to those who respect me. Mark's expression faded to a muted understanding, a flicker of healing perhaps, but shadows of their past twitched at the edges of his demeanor. If you can surround yourself with new people, then come back to me when you're ready. I can help you raise our son. I want to be a part of your life again. A fresh wave of determination washed over Lisa, mingling with residual apprehension. This was not merely a reconciliation but a potential new beginning for both of them as co-parents. There's a path forward, but it doesn't necessarily include you being a constant presence in my life, and it certainly doesn't mean picking up where we left off. I see, Mark finally conceded, his voice quieter, conceding the floor. I only want to be there when you're ready, but let us figure this out for our son. It was a moment of supreme clarity for Lisa. The weight lifted as her confusion transformed into recognition of her own power. I'm ready for co-parenting, but only when our interactions are respectful and adult-focused. I will not tolerate manipulation or nostalgia for the past clouding our present responsibilities. Mark nodded slowly, his defenses softening for an instant, revealing a glimpse of recognition that left room for possibility and understanding that she had changed, just as he claimed he had. The conversation was transformative. Each word exchanged refined her budding identity, highlighting her self-worth as she navigated these new waters. As the cafe hummed around them, the essence of tranquility settled upon her like a balm. Lisa felt tangible relief coursing through her veins, grounding her with each pulse. For the first time, the past did not dictate her emotions, rather, they coexisted with newfound strength. Later that evening, as she reached home, Lisa reflected deeply on her emotional journey, unfurling layers of understanding like petals blooming anew. Just an hour ago, she had stood before the man who had once dictated her choices, set against a backdrop of emotions that had once crippled her. Now, she held the reins firmly in her grip, empowered by not only her conversation with Mark but also by the comfort and support that Jack offered her. With settled resolution, she reached for her paintbrush, fear and uncertainty melding into vibrant strokes across the canvas. Each brush of color symbolized her growth, what she had overcome, the barriers she had laid down, the new paths she was forging. This artwork wasn't merely a reflection of her past, it sang the lyrics of her life, one where she would thrive not in the shadow of others, but under the brilliance of her own aspirations. In the following days, Lisa reveled in the artistry of her life. Encouraged by Jack's unwavering support, she began strategizing for her art exhibition, refining the theme around transformation and resilience, allowing her experiences with Mark and her rediscovery to illuminate her narrative. Nurturing her creativity became a cathartic release, a powerful reminder that she had the authority to write the chapters of her own story. As the exhibition date approached, she felt solid confidence unwinding within her. The recognition of her accomplishments blossomed, and as her murals took their place for unveiling, each stroke of paint resonated not just with her artistry but with her evolving spirit, a testament to her tenacity. This time, there would be no looking back. Finally, the night of the exhibition arrived. Bathed in warm light and surrounded by friends and acquaintances who genuinely appreciated her work, Lisa stood alongside Jack, her partner in both art and life. Statements of praise and validation flowed around her, a palpable acknowledgement of her worth and capability. She was no longer just a woman struggling to make sense of a life dictated by others, she was Lisa Stewart, an artist claiming her voice with courage, resolve, and authenticity. As the evening wound down, the applause fueled her, a relentless affirmation of her journey. Underneath the velvety cloak of night, she felt a fierce pride swell within her, not just for her art, but for the woman she had become. With each heartfelt conversation, her identity crystallized further. She was a mother, a visionary, and a warrior who conquered every challenge thrown her way. The storm had passed, clarity emerged steadfast on the horizon, and the sky shimmered with possibility. Now, here lay another opportunity before her, one where the past would exist without power over her future. With legs steady and fierce purpose, Lisa took one final long look at the exhibition hall before stepping into the evening air, embracing the vibrant pulse of her future. The world awaited her next masterpiece. If you want to witness more stories of transformation and empowerment, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and not miss out on exclusive narrative journeys that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these impactful tales. Comment your reactions and theories about Lisa's extraordinary journey. And remember to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the message of personal empowerment.